I don't know the full story exactly, but from what I've heard, the Japanese bought one Tiger, and the Germans kind of put it in a warehouse and never shipped it to them. I don't know if they ever got their money back. I would assume I think they did. But yeah, they were gonna ship it via, like, U-boat or one of the Japanese submarines, from what I've heard. And it just never happened because of the, Allies taking control of the water. They also bought, I think, Panzer III, maybe a Panther, I don't remember. There's a couple different things that they bought after seeing them. But yeah, Heavy Tank number 6 is not really a real vehicle in terms of Japan ever getting it.
Oh, there's one in the chat. Could you speak about Conway? Conway is a really interesting vehicle. Again, people seem to think it's a tank destroyer because of computer games. It's not. It is a tank by British definitions, and she's listed as a tank. So 4004 Conway goes back to that period when we're like trying to get a 120mm gun into a Centurion somehow, and we need to do it quite quickly. And so what we decided to do was put it into this sort of particularly raised turret, because we were told that you can have these Centurions to test on, but what you can't do is interrupt Centurion design or development in any way. You can't basically interfere with the hull. So we had to build the whole system so that the gun and the weighted recoil wouldn't actually go below the turret ring, so that if needed, whatever we were doing could be thrown off and the original turret put back on, and the vehicle was good to go into battle. So we end up with this massive sort of box-like structure on top again, with a 120mm gun and an armoured front, which is how we get with that one. And they only built 2 of them, and interestingly enough, the very first ones they were testing out on used guns from a Tiger. So there's a picture of some of the turrets with an 88mm gun from Tigers they cut off, stuck on the front.
Huh.
I've got a video on Conway, and those pictures are actually on there with the 88mm Conway.
Oh, you missed the chance. You could have said the time Britain used the Tiger's gun or something like that.
I could have done, and then like maybe put a bit of, I don't know, Mark Felton music over the top.
Oh yeah, you gotta throw that in
The secret
there.
British tank gun, 88mm. No, I couldn't learn myself.
Oh, that's the Tiger tech they used for D-Day. It all makes sense now.
Oh yeah, from that absolutely awful book.
There's something.
If anyone's wondering what we're talking about there, it's to do with a book called Catch That Tiger.
That's quite. I'm gonna have to make a video on the story that's in that.
Yep.
It's just a matter of finding the information to debunk it all. Not that it's that hard, because just reading it is enough to debunk it, but that's not enough for the Veracruz.
Yeah. Using a Tiger to fight off a U-boat in the English Channel and so on. Absolutely
yeah, you
amazing.
gotta pull it out of the storage and then proceed to do that.
But I think you need to cover the Amazon reviews, like such amazing history lost to time, and some of these facts seem a little off. A little. It's like nowhere near the truth.
Stupid weasels. Go away.
What's that? Did Raden ever use APF SDS? No, it didn't. They only ever used APDS on Raden.
Ed's like the most knowledgeable person alive about the Tortoise, so if you guys have any questions while I play the Tortoise, he knows everything.
That's because I spent the last 3 years going to every archive on Tortoise and so on with the damn thing.
Oh, you come back here, Tiger 2. I'll get you one of these times.
Actually, I'm talking about that. Well, in a week's time, I'll be up with Tortoise P6 at Kokubri Ranges. It's taken a year and a bit to organise, but I now have full access to the range up there, where the last other Tortoise hull remains. So I'll be up there taking all the measurements and pictures. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I never realized from those photos that you sent that the Tortoise actually went to Europe. I thought that they just kind of built
two of
and
them.
tested it.
Yeah, 2 of them were sent there. So that was the whole purpose. That's the reason we carried on and built the Tortoise as we did. Drac wanted at least enough to form a company so that he could test out various ideas for future heavy tanks. He wasn't interested in the vehicle itself. What he was interested was an 80-ton mobile platform that he could use to test guns, weight tests. So when you look at those ones in Germany, they're going up and down the motorways and over bridges and so on to see how German infrastructure held up with 80-ton tanks crossing it back and forth. Stuff like that. They were very good test beds. So there's a couple of them going across the Rhine on flotation barges just to see how easy you could move an 80-ton vehicle across on a barge. So that's why they had them. New trailers, new towing vehicles. Yeah, that's why we kept Tortoises. And of course the gun was very, very good. And there was some concern with the 20-pounder at the time, whose APDS was performing quite badly. So that's why I did the Tortoise versus Panther video, where you actually see the Tortoise gun shooting at Panthers and comparing it against the 20-pounder APDS they were using against Panthers on the Rangers.
I get a question from someone asking what the top armor is on the Tortoise. I think it's like, what is it, like 50 or 100 millimeters? It's thick, I know that.
It's pretty thick, but it's nowhere near that. Let me go and find...
I know the rear armor is 100 millimeters. I'm not sure
I'll
what
have
the
the
deck
plans,
armor,
yeah.
though.
Let me go and find the plans for you. If I have to dig out plans, I want to talk at the same time. I can't multitask.
No, you're good. I will hold down the fort while you find that. Will I find whatever the heck is hiding over here? Something was hiding in this smoke. Come on, team. I am many things, but an assault tank is not one of them. At least not alone. Oh, hello. He thought I was a building. That is a tank over there. See if we can get him through the building. Oh, we can.
There's actually a good question. Why someone said, what do you think about the very flat plating the English used for very long? Was it out of ignorance or factory constraints? No, it wasn't. In fact, we actually had very good understanding of sloped armor. In fact, we called it tilted armor. And throughout World War II, we did test various vehicles with sloped armor. There's a Cromwell with slope plate. There's a Comet with slope plate. There's a couple of downsides to sloped armor that concerned us. One is it causes problems with where to put the bow machine gun, which, to be honest, you can work around, but we were being a bit finicky on that. The second problem is it takes up a lot of internal volume if you put the armor sloped. For example, putting the gearbox at the front, you have to move the gearbox back. You basically, if you imagine the half of your vehicle, if you tilt the plate at 45 degrees, you lose half the internal volume. It doesn't actually weigh any less, which is a common myth that sloped armor weighs less. It doesn't. It takes a lot longer to produce and manufacture. If you're driving across terrain that isn't flat, say you're going down a slope, you actually lose the protection compared to flat plate. And the final bit is we were quite aware of what overmatching was doing. So when you hit sloped plate with a caliber of shot larger than the equivalent vertical of that armor, you actually lose some of the protection that the angling offers.
Interesting.
And as the German guns tended to be sort of 75 to 88 millimeter or bigger, it just made more sense for us to keep the flat plate. Towards the war's end, there is a lot bigger call saying we want sloped armor. Now everyone's got sloped armor, we want sloped armor. So the UK said, okay, right, well, the next load of Cromwells will have sloped armor. To which the reply was, well, we've got a new vehicle coming out, Centurion, that has sloped armor, so stop whining. Along those lines. So, we end up with sloped armor. But of course, sloped armor actually disappears quite quickly if you think about it. And by the sort of later Cold War, it's actually done more for profiling than anything else. Because the best form of protection you can have is not to be hit. So if you can lower the profile, that's the best protection. So people today go, oh, well, look at this sloped armor, or is that a shot trap, and so on. Well, modern rounds don't work like that. You know, they don't ricochet up, and shot traps aren't really a thing anymore. So generally, you tend to see that slope plate from between Centurion is there, and by the time you get to things like Challenger or anything with composite armors, it's now all about shape and profile rather than actual direct line of sight thickness and trying to slope it. But even some of the early tanks, you look at World War I and things, and you look at some of the British vehicles, even things like Churchill. You've got the flat plates, the flat upper plates, and the nose plate, but then the actual glassy plate is very well sloped between those two to make maximum use of the actual angling, while still keeping the internal volume. So I think it's more a case of people misunderstanding the advantages of slope plate than saying, well, the English didn't understand it.